Hey, what's up, ecosystem? Welcome back to ATI, the car shipping business channel. It's Wednesday, it's noon, it's DOT compliance. We have your DOT guy, Brian Riker. He's the expert. He is here taking live calls, questions, 30-minute show. Jump in the live chat. Do me a favor before we get there. Go ahead and hit that like button. Thank you so much for doing that. You can also click share, click copy. You can grab that YouTube link. Send it to a friend. Do you know somebody that is starting up? If you're starting up, you've got questions. There is so much to learn, know, and try to do right. That's what DOT compliance is all about every Wednesday at noon. There they are, jumping in the live chat, the ATI friends. What is going on, friends? John, LAI Auto Transport. Hello, everybody. Hello, Brian and Jay. What's up, David Lease? Two Bears Transportation. May the stumps begin. Because we always say, you know, you can try to stump Brian, but he is the expert. But you know what? We will give you the stump if you so choose. And Chris Chamberlain is here. Bring on the DOT education. Chris, thanks for sending in emails. We've got some How We Doin coming up. Let's go ahead and jump in with Brian. Now, Brian is on the move. And he is he's trying to stay ahead of the snow, so he is going to join us by audio only. Brian, can you see us and hear us?
Yes, I can, and I'm going to apologize because I'm fat and out of breath as I'm walking across the parking lot in the Ohio Turnpike.
Okay. Well, I am. I'm not that great looking. I'm sitting in a chair, and I once was a dispatcher. So, you know, this is auto transport.
Yeah. I'm on a quest to get a fuel receipt after pumping fuel, and nobody wants to do their job.
Well, see, and that's it. It's those little holdups that nobody. How do you explain that to your customer or the DOT? Right?
Exactly. I'm racing an airplane because I'm on my way to Detroit, and if I don't get there before 5 o'clock tonight, I'll have to stay till tomorrow. And with the snow and ice coming through, I'll likely miss my flight. Will probably be grounded tomorrow.
Is there somewhere to mark on the ELD waiting on cashier? You can write that in with pencil. I think you can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's going to go over well. All right. I'll tell you what. Let's do this. Let's jump into. We'll just take off the industry news. We got ATI DOT compliance information news stuff. I just want to share. You shared that screenshot of like this guy was going off about no CDL ever again, high blood pressure. What happened here? You remember that?
He was watching our Dr. Mark show on Trucker, or not Dr. Mark, I'm sorry. I'm interviewing Dr. Mark tomorrow on my other show.
Awesome.
He was watching our our show on drug testing.
Oh, drug testing, yes.
Yeah, with
Luke Kibbe from Compliance Navigation Specialist. Okay,
yes,
gotcha.
Yes, and hang on one second, Jay.
And the drug testing thing, yeah, go ahead, Brian. The drug testing thing is big. I just saw another, there was a post on social media. Would you hire a carrier that had tested positive for controlled substances? Would you? How do you feel about that? Now, controlled substance, this is why, all right, awesome, now we're in my neighborhood. This is why the categorization of dangerous terms, okay, marijuana's not, shouldn't be a controlled substance, right? Now, it's treated like a narcotic. I mean, you know, if you smoke weed in some, I guess according to federal law, etc., I mean, you're on your way to terrorismville. If you smoke weed as a controlled substance, narcotic, Schedule 1,
yes.
You're going to hell and more. And so, and that's where if you put this stuff in these dangerous, nasty categories, then you get popped, and now you're in some dangerous, nasty category. But the purpose of this blood pressure thing, this guy's blood pressure got raised.
Well, here's what happened is he went to, and this is why groups like OOIDA have a review your doc section on their webpage, because he went to a DOT doctor that made it sound like it was going to be end of his driving career if he couldn't get his blood pressure under control immediately. And he's been being treated for blood pressure for a while. But it just was high that day, probably white coat syndrome. And so what happened is he thought it was unfair that a drug addict or a substance abuser could get a second chance at driving, but he wouldn't.
Ooh,
and it really just was a misunderstanding of the regulations.
But that argument actually seems interesting. I'm going to say this to you now. I'm sure you saw that Cassandra Gaines is doing a thing on Friday about would you hire a driver that had been tested positive for a controlled substance. Did you see that?
I haven't seen that one yet. No, I have not.
So you're going to want to sign. I know that you're going to want to sign up and attend her event. It's Friday. I think it's 2 Central, and then maybe we can follow up on that next week.
Yes, because although she's very unorthodox as an attorney, she makes good points sometimes. So there might be something there to learn from. And honestly, yes, I would. Provided that they completed the return to duty process and are not showing any signs of continuing in that lifestyle, because this stuff can happen accidentally and unintentionally. I've told the story in other media forums, and I lost my adult son because of this, and it started out as a prescription opioid and led to a heroin addiction, which led to depression and suicide. So,
did
I lose you, Jay?
No,
there
I'm
you
here.
are. So yes, I would give someone a second chance.
Well, and I'm glad you said it, because that is really, I think one of the problems with the tick-tockiness of life is that we're at such a high-strung level of social media back and forth negativity that we've lost sight of the whole second chances nature of humanity. But I'm going to keep going.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and drugs, okay, we've consciously made a choice to inject a bad substance into our body. Why we made that choice is irrelevant, but it happened. It's not the end of the world, just like being overweight and blood pressure. High blood pressure is not the end of the world. You can fix it.
So we're going to try to stump you. Let's see. Even as if you didn't have enough, it's almost like a Survivor, man. You're on an island. There's snow. There's ice. You have a truck, and we're going to ask you questions. And go. All right.
Sure.
So here we go. Right. Okay. So you'd gotten a question. A driver wants to lease on. Does he have to have insurance through the main company? You answered this, but I know that this is a common question. You want to talk about this one?
Sure. Whoever the motor carrier is that is operating the truck, not the owner, not the driver, but the motor carrier, whose D.O.T. number is displayed on the side of the truck and whose authority it is operating under by federal regulation, must provide the primary or public liability and the cargo insurance. They can charge that back to a contractor, to a lease driver, but they must provide it. Now, the optional coverage is the physical damage, also known as comp or collision in the automotive world, and your non-trucking liability, so that you can drive the truck outside of hauling freight for this particular company. That they do not have to provide. You can provide it on your own, and you can pick where it comes from. But otherwise, the regulation says the motor carrier operating the truck must provide the insurance. That's why these companies are so particular, because they post what's called a MCS 90 bond. That's the insurance you see when you look them up on the DOT website. This says any vehicle, if you read the fine print of an MCS 90 form, any vehicle displaying that DOT number must be covered, even if it's not declared on the policy. So even if you had your own insurance, it does the company you're leasing to no good, because their insurance still is responsible for what you do while you're operating on their behalf.
And I put in the live chat, if you need further clarification, go on air at YourDOTGuy.com. That's the email address. Because if you send Brian an email and he's not in the middle of a snowstorm, I put on the screen, look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 sentence paragraphs on just the question of the drug testing issue. Yeah, the white coat syndrome. You gave that guy a lot of information to think about, and we appreciate that you did that, Brian.
And that particular guy followed up the next day with a thank you for sending him that information, and so that he knew that he wasn't at the end of his career, and he was going to go get a legal second opinion, which is perfectly allowable as long as you answer all the questions on your medical form the same way you answered them for the first doctor, and you disclose the same information, and that's what he was going to do.
Oftentimes we find that new information can help whatever extremely stressful situation you find yourself in.
Yes,
that's the purpose
absolutely.
of DOT compliance. Hey, and Silverman's got a question. Okay, I'm going to read what he typed. Riddle me this. When you're not working, you are in fact working. If there is no way to stop the clock unless you is off for 10 hours. Is that correct?
The way he has that worded is a little confusing. So to stop the clock, to be off duty, you have to be relieved from all work obligations for the motor carrier. The only thing that can interrupt that are short messages on your telephone or your data terminal in the truck. So you can get a quick phone call from your dispatcher or something.
Oh, and we lost Brian. He is definitely on the go. You know it, because almost every time we do this show, he's right here with us, and he'll call back in. He's on audio only. Must have lost the signal. And we also got to make sure we let him go in time, because he's got a deadline. You guys know this, too. And that's the thing is, that's why I finished my ELD punch last night. But I created the ELD punch because I think I'm with you. I don't think the ELD, I understand the purpose of the mechanism. I get that. But the way it operates, the way it's not flexible. I mean, life throws constant curveballs. And then when somebody, when you're faced with, what feels like an interrogation, there's no room to explain real life. And it's assumed that you're lying, right? When you're trying to explain, listen, it's not the dog ate my homework, it's this and that. And so here's Brian he's trying to help, provide information. He's fighting the clock himself. And, so we lost him. So
I'm back.
Oh, and there he is. He's
back.
back. Okay, cool. So
I never went anywhere. I could still hear you. It must have went to mute or something, but it wouldn't let me unmute. Same problem we've been having the last couple of weeks. I hate to say it, I do not give a ringing endorsement to the Galaxy S21 phone. Since I upgraded to that phone, our live interviews have gone off track all the time. I didn't physically move from the spot that I started that speech on. I'm standing in line at the Ohio Service Plaza at the 170. So if anybody happens to be on the Ohio Turnpike westbound at the 170 mile marker, I'm in the Service Plaza for the next 20 minutes.
All right, here we go. Let's do it. Here comes the music. It is time for How We Doing. No, not that one. Okay, so I'm going to try to describe what we see. The whole purpose of How We Doing is so we don't have a flip of the week. So, Brian, our first How We Doing is, all right, these were sent in by Chris Chamberlain. We've got is that a single rear wheel pickup pulling a wedge trailer. In the number one spot, he has a single rear wheel pickup backwards. In the middle spot is a small sedan. It is pretty small. I don't know if that's like a Honda or a Mitsubishi or something. And in the back spot, he's got it's a single rear wheel, but that's a long bed. Can you see that?
Yeah, that's a long bed, probably diesel 4x4.
How we doing?
Well, he's got pretty even weight distribution between the two, and with the heavy one hanging off the back, it's going to lighten up the front. But I mean, if that's a non-CDL rig, he's probably over 26 as the combined weight on everything.
Right. So, I mean, and the straps look good. It's just that, yeah, we probably have a weight problem. And what about his overhang on the back? That ain't going to fly in Missouri, is it?
No, half the country, that overhang on either end of the trailer would be no good. Right. So it's a matter of knowing where you're running, and I can't tell if he has an if the decal on the truck or not to maybe be a CDL. It has worse optics than it really is. It looks tall and heavy, but if he is a 36,000 pound combined weight on that truck, he's probably legitimate.
Okay, good. And in fact, I think that I think what we do see, I think it's paper tags in the window. Is it okay?
As long as it can be clearly read from 50 feet away, yes.
All right. And that's the thing too, is that we're not here to like, this is not some kind of pile-on, doofus fest. We're just making sure that we're okay.
Yeah, I want to make sure that
it is a dually. Chris says it's a dually. Oh, okay. Gotcha. The angle. All right.
Yeah. Right. I want to make sure that just because something doesn't look right doesn't mean it's not right. Okay?
Okay, cool. Awesome. All right. And how about this one? How's this guy doing? Is he okay?
Hang on a sec.
Yeah, no problem. So I'll just describe it if you're on the podcast. Thank you so much. Now, Chris, is that a dually? Again, it's hard to tell, but I think that one is. Okay, I believe I see the tires on it. Okay, so you've got a sedan at number 1 on the flippers, a sedan in the middle. Looks like he's going to be picking up plenty of room for. I mean, and the thing is, if he's going to be picking up, I mean, how long was he driving that way? Again, we're not trying to be nitpicky. Here's the problem, though. When you get to the scales, they're going to be way pickier than we're being right now.
Oh, absolutely, Jay. And so looking at this one, we have... he looks like he's just getting ready or just dropped off some vehicles. I probably would have moved that load further back on the trailer, but that's not awful because he does have another one on the trailer, so it will help with the weight distribution to keep him from becoming the flip of the week.
Right, it's all about flip prevention. Okay, this is the same shot of the previous one. All right, so we got about 10 minutes left. Thanks for saying hello, Joe. What's going on? And Chris, yeah, that's the thing. He drove in the lot like that. That's where I'm with you. How far, did he move it down the road? Probably not. It's hard to say. Hey, Angel's here with us. Angel, hey everyone, looking to get into behind a desk off the truck due to injury, looking to be an auto transport broker. Any help? Greatly appreciated. Angel signed up as an ATI Insider, so thank you for tuning in and making it here. Basically, what happened? This is the perfect time, where we, we look at the we all look at the doorway. Angel walks in. We all look at the doorway. Oh, hey Angel, come on in, have a seat. Donuts are over there. Feel free to get a cup of coffee. And now that you're here, yeah, this is the beginning stage of welcome to the ATI community. And it's not for everybody. Maybe it's for you though. Where today on Wednesday on D.O.T. we talk about startup FMCSA D.O.T. Yeah.
This has to be the worst live interview I've done in a year.
but you can't stop me. I will just keep going.
Well, that's good. You can ramble on, and that's wonderful. That's a great skill to have when you're dealing with me as your co-host and expert.
I even hit the wrong buttons over here, so we're all good.
I went to push back to the screen so I could see that picture better, and I ended up ending the meeting.
All right. Well, we have Angel's here. Angel's a recent ATI Insider. Oh, hey, Repo Ryan's here too. And Angel, what you want to do, definitely tune in tomorrow on Dispatching Live and Friday on Cars on the Move. we talk about different aspects of the business. This is the technical day. In fact, what I pulled up on the screen is remember how we were saving for a house? Well, surprise, honey, it's a truck.
Yeah.
And will you start a trucking company with me? Yeah, it's marriage, it's a company. What's the difference? So, I wanted to bring this up, Brian. I don't know what this is. What's vehicle inventory and use survey? What does that mean? Do you know?
That is something you want to participate in if you get the letter in the mail. It's basically the census of the trucking industry. It's a program collecting information on the trucks that are on the road, how they're used, what type of trucks they are, even how they're spec'd, so that they can decide where to allocate federal funds and spend money on different projects and stuff that will benefit the industry. This is a good thing to respond to if you get it.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So
it's a 9-month data collection process, and then it'll take them a year to compile all the data, and this will be used for the next 10 or 20 years to help them determine size of parking spaces at rest areas, numbers of parking spaces, highway designs, even Department of Labor to make decisions to help with programs to create labor and recruit drivers and all sorts of stuff.
So it's not a rubber glove, sing Moon River for me kind of deal. This is a good thing?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a very good thing. And your data will be randomized and anonymized anyhow, so it won't even be attributed back to you specifically when you're all done.
Oh, awesome. All right, we got a few more minutes left. Okay, what is going to happen? I saw this today. I didn't know, Washington, D.C. issued an alert as officials brace for truckers arriving in the nation's capital, a la Canada. So what's happening? Where are we? How are we doing?
Well, we have an attempt to organize a convoy in the U.S. to protest a couple of different things, vaccine mandates being one, and the Capitol Police and the security in Washington, D.C. are already on edge from what happened January 6th of last year. So they're going to make sure you're dotting your I's, crossing your T's, have public assembly permits, and stay out of the restricted areas. And being we have a State of the Union address coming up at the beginning of the month here, they're not going to let trucks anywhere near downtown D.C. during that event for security. I'm all for the right to peacefully assemble and protest. That's what makes America great. And if everybody stays in this convoy and makes their point without becoming disruptive, we have to show that we're better than what happens with other protests where we end up with riots and stuff, to give the industry a good public perception, show that we're better. It could be effective. I'm not holding my breath because Canada waited out the truckers as long as they could, and then they invoked military powers, basically, a wartime act, the Special Powers Act or whatever they called it up there, and started forcibly removing peaceful protesters without any thought of compromise. And that's the problem. As in Canada, here in the United States, our current administration is open for zero compromise on vaccine mandates and other issues that this convoy is designed to protest. So I don't expect it to generate any discussion with the administration, because even having a 50-50 split House and Senate, the other half of Congress can't get the administration to change their mind or compromise on any of this. So a protest by citizens is probably going to have zero effect. It probably would be better timed if it was, say, August or September, just before midterm elections. Then they might listen.
Yeah. No, it seems like it's going to be another Soylent Green, where they're just going to pull in the caterpillars and scoop the people up and keep on going. Yeah. And I hate to paint such a nasty picture, but I mean, right?
The only way we're going to make effective change is to vote them all out. Get rid of all of the incumbents and stop voting for name recognition, and show people we're willing to make changes instead of it becoming a lifetime career to be a politician.
Yikes. Yeah, call me. Wake me up when that happens. Do me a favor here. Joe has a question. We're going to come back to Joe, but Silvermint clarified on the ELD fund. Okay, to be more specific, if I pick up a load and I drive 3 hours to drop it off, I wait 7 hours in detainment, pick the same load up again and take it back, I can only drive 1 hour because of the hours. Unless I'm off duty 10 hours to make that 3 hour trip again.
Yes. Now, if he sat for exactly 7 hours and he has a sleeper berth and he was able to be in the sleeper berth for 7 hours, then you'll gain back part of your 14-hour day and your 14-hour clock and 11 hours drive time. In that case, would probably be enough time to drive back the other direction. But the way the numbers sound like they add up, he'll exceed his 14-hour window, and that is the fixed clock. The moment you start an on-duty activity for the day, you can work as long as you want, but you cannot drive beyond the 14th hour that day or more than 11 hours in that 14-hour window. Did I make that clear, or did I muddy that up?
I think you made it clear. He'll put in here in the live chat if not. That's why I recommend ELD Punch and call me in the morning.
And this is why hot shots have a difficult time, because your over-the-road brothers and sisters in traditional Class 7 and 8 rigs with compliant sleeper berths, especially since they revised the split sleeper berth rule again, they could have taken 7 hours in their bunk and then taken the other 3 hours later on down the road somewhere, and it would have been the equivalent of a full 10-hour break. And in that case, they wouldn't have been stuck there. But the way that's described, personal conveyance would not be an appropriate use. And unfortunately, even though you sat there off duty for 7 hours, you can't pause your 14-hour clock without a sleeper berth. That's probably the simplest way to explain it. If you had a sleeper berth and you were in the sleeper, a period of at least 7 hours in the sleeper would pause that 14-hour clock.
Ah, the sleeper berth. That's really helpful that you added that in there. Thank you. I do want to mention...
And it has to be a DOT compliant sleeper berth, not the back seat of your pickup truck unless you make the modifications, because they'll inspect it, and if it doesn't meet the requirements, then that's a false log, and it's an out-of-service condition.
Yikes. Joe has a question. I think I'm going to sell my 3-car wedge, get a 40-foot flatbed. What are their thoughts? Is there advice on CDL flatbed car haul? My wedge is kind of narrow, and I have some local freight options often to fill in the gaps.
I don't have any specific business advice. Make sure you're going to have nice long ramps so you can load cars up on it without damaging them if you're going to still haul cars. And make sure you update your MCS 150, your DOT number registration, to show you're doing general freight or machinery or whatever else you plan on hauling besides automobiles, and make sure you let your insurance company know so that you're covered for what you're hauling, because a lot of times you get a policy, and if you say you're a car hauler, they'll exclude all sorts of other cargo.
So, Joe, also be sure to join us Friday on Cars on the Move, where we talk about business and final mile, etc. I just want to mention before we let Brian go, On the Road with Your DOT Guy, Brian Riker. That's the podcast. Brian, you want to talk about your podcast?
Sure. And we're up to episode 8 or 9 that are uploaded. You can find it anywhere you can find podcasts: Google, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartMedia, and all the rest of them. So we're up to 7 or 8 episodes uploaded right now. I'm recording an interview with Dr. Mark Manera from Trucking Fit, the trucking fitness company, who was a special guest on this show 3 weeks ago now. And I have some episodes speaking about insurance, some general authority and drug compliance questions. There's an episode on how not to get taken advantage of by a towing company. There's an episode on how to find a road service company. That's a question I see all the time. Is there a AAA for big rigs? Well, not in the same sense where you pay a subscription and they cover all your services, but there are a couple of companies out there, either subscription-based or even some good, solid, free services And I go into a deep interview with the inaugural sponsor of On the Road with Your D.O.T. Guy, whose company provides those type of services. And they're not some fly-by-night, hole-in-the-wall company. Their parent company is ArcBest, which owns Panther Logistics, ABF Freight, FleetNet, which is a long-standing road service provider for the trucking industry. And so on the show, we do a mix of sometimes me rambling like I am right now, sometimes some good interviews. I am planning on having an expert on proper valuation for your business. For those of you as we age up and we get ready to sell, how do you decide what the value of your business is? How do you find a buyer? How do you find a seller if you want to buy a company or expand? We're going to have an episode on that soon. We're going to have a marijuana specialist, a biochemist that can explain why it's not as simple as alcohol to just create a field sobriety test and take marijuana off the Schedule 1 list, so that since it's a legal substance in half the country, let's make it legal for truck drivers. Well, it's not that simple. We're going to have a biochemist on to explain that. And I forget what the other upcoming episodes are that we're in the process of production, but we're going to have some pretty cool guests on the show this year.
Man, that is awesome. We're at the 12:30 mark, and Brian, I want to thank you so much for your time and participation. We want to make sure you get to your next spot on time.
Yeah, if I wasn't racing an airplane with a 7:45 flight out of Detroit, and I'm still 100 miles east of Toledo, so that means I'm still 170, 80 miles from where I have to go and then come back down to the airport. If I wasn't racing an airplane tonight, I'd stick around a little longer.
Well, listen, safe travels to you, Brian. Thank you so much for taking the time. We'll see you next week. Keep us posted, and thank you, buddy. Thank you.
I promise we'll have a better, high-quality show next week.
I thought this was incredible quality. No, we do what we can, and you're a busy guy.
You even get to see my face for a second. I checked in to say hi with a French fry in my hand.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, there's Brian. Let's stop the share. There he is. Awesome. That is Brian Riker, your DOT guy. And I can even do, look at this, I can even do all the fancy titling and all that stuff. So, all right.
I did make it live for a second. All right, guys.
Perfect.
Have a great day. I'll see you next Wednesday.
All right, thanks, Brian. Thank you so much. All right, see ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye. And that's it for today's episode on DOT compliance. Please do let people know that if you are looking for DOT FMCSA advice, you want to look at the trailer, I got a question about the tags, etc. You know the drill. Let us know how we can help. Please do join us tomorrow on Dispatching Live, where we look at the load boards, and we're going to find out, has the wait time changed on getting signed up for Central Dispatch? Join us tomorrow. Let's find out more. Thanks so much, everybody. Take care.